is love on the Queer Family Podcast. Love is love.
All I wanted was that Lamalani's Chinese. I wanted a Chinese donor.
That was it.
And that was weird. There were people in our life who were like, oh, you're getting a Chinese donor? Why?
I'm like,
And I was
hi, do you not see me as Chinese?
Almost like
we
they
need to talk about
expected
that.
us to want to like, quote, upgrade to a white baby. I don't, it was weird. It was really weird.
Welcome to the Queer Family Podcast. My name is Jamie and I'm your host. And you, my friends, are tuning in to the podcast that uplifts, highlights, and normalizes queer families and has been doing so for the past 6 years and won't stop, can't stop for the next 50. I don't know. That might have been a large exaggeration, but we're going, and queer families matter. And here we are. And I have somebody very special to help me introduce today's interview. It's a very special guest. It's a fan favorite. You're all going to be very excited. You know what? Bring her in, Helen. Bring in Ann. It's Ann Woods.
Here she is.
It's my wife. Hi, wife.
Hello, wife.
It's kind of funny because we're literally sitting one door apart in the same apartment, but because we have these the video episodes now, I needed to do it so that we could both be on camera and not be like facing each other awkwardly because I don't have a camera set. I need to get a studio. That's what it is.
Yeah, we definitely have that in the budget.
I have nothing in the budget.
Yeah.
You know who was supposed to come in and do an intro with me last week and maybe this week? You know who that was?
I do. They don't.
Yeah. It was Rosie. Rosie was going to come in. I got up the nerve to text her and she said yes. I was like, oh my God. And then something came up and she couldn't do it. And I haven't sent a follow-up text yet saying, okay, let's try again because I need to get the nerve up. But it's going to happen. Rosie's coming in at some point. I promise. Everybody go send Rosie like a comment or a DM on the social saying that you really want to hear her on the Queer Family Podcast or something.
Yeah, she'll really appreciate that.
So, Ann, the Pride Extravaganza, where we pushed out double the episodes for the entire month of June.
Double the fun.
I know. And Beyond is over. This is season 13. Welcome to season 13.
Lucky 13. It's going to be the moneymaker.
My question to you, my beautiful wife, what'd you think of the Pride Extravaganza?
It was fun, especially hearing you say that like 50 times a day.
Oh, now you loved it. Did you actually listen?
To most, I don't seem to have the time that you have to listen to podcasts, but I listened as much as I could.
And I listened to podcasts while I transition from place to place, like to go pick up the kids and on my runs and on the way to the gym and back. Like that's my whole life. That's it.
Yeah.
And you have a commute every day.
Yeah, I have 30 minutes and mostly on my commute, I actually continue to work on my commute.
Well, that is my work. So
yeah, true that.
I've been listening to a lot of podcasts lately. And you know, everybody and their mother has freaking podcasts nowadays. Like it's like the thing that celebrities are doing. Everybody has a podcast.
Well,
you know
when
that?
you have $1 million, let's figure out how to make $1 million more.
Right. Well, that's the thing. Like producers come to them and they're like, hey, I think you should make a podcast about blah, blah, blah. And they're like, should I do it? And then they do it. And then it's like super successful and it's amazing. And they get all the funding and they get all the stuff. Meanwhile, independent podcasters like myself are still over here busting our butts, just trying to keep it going, really. So
I know. It's like franking in Congress. You can't win. Newcomers can't win.
Right. And I don't even know what you meant by that, but yep.
Somebody out there knows that.
I'm sure they do. It's just not me. It's not my thing. I'm not a history major, government major. The guests that we are introducing today, Ann, Lamalani and Laracarina. I love saying their names. It's very fun.
Ooh, that is fun. They should have a show.
They should have a show.
Alliteration.
Well, they have a really good episode coming up, and their story is full of all kinds of stuff. IVF. They tried reciprocal IVF, COVID craziness, and a little surrogacy thing. There's a lot in this story. It's a beautiful story. A crazy donor search, AKA Search for Superman, which you and I know a lot about. And it's a really great story. So I really want to get into it. But one thing that you should know, Ann, is during the interview, they talk profusely about how much they love you.
They don't really know me. That's why they love me.
Everybody
Thank you,
loves
though,
you.
ladies.
Yeah, everybody loves you.
Because they don't really know me.
Oh, now I love you, and I know you very well.
Most times.
Well, there's times.
Oh.
Yeah. It's true. It's true. But here's the thing about this interview, though. I interviewed these two a long time ago, like way before Pride. And that's the thing with this show. Like, I get these emails a lot from like people who try to help podcasters. And a lot of the times the content is, let us help you find guests or tips for finding guests to come on your show. That is not our problem on this show at all. Not at all.
Not
there
at
are
all.
so many folks out there who want to tell their queer family stories because we don't have there's no platform for it. So finding guests is not the problem.
And they're like literally knocking on our front door. Thank goodness we're fortunate enough to have a doorman.
Privileged enough. Yeah, you're
Yes,
right.
very.
No, but they're not knocking on our front door. But there's a lot. I have a lot of interviews that are already done. I have a lot of interviews lined up, and I have a lot more to schedule. Like, there is no shortage of that. My problem is I have a really hard time saying no, and I have a really hard time making decisions. And so I'm saying yes to everybody. And then something happens like this with Lamalani and Laracarina, and their episode comes out way after we interviewed them. So we might need them to give us a little update since we last talked, but their story is still bomb and amazing, and I can't wait to share it. But that's the truth of the matter. I have plenty of guests because our stories are beautiful and we want to share them. And that's the lesson with that.
Also, it doesn't mean if you have a good story, you don't reach out and tell her about it. Keep emailing her.
Yeah, keep reaching out. I need to hear it all. We want to hear them all. Every single story. Keep reaching out. I will just find time to fit you in, is the point. Me and my beautiful, wonderful assistant, Nicole, will figure it out. If we have to do double episodes to get everybody in, then we'll do that. And I'll give myself many, many colds like I have right now from the Pride Extravaganza.
Way to speak for Nicole, too. Sorry about that, Nicole.
Nicole's amazing.
I
Nicole's
know.
bomb.
You just tried to double her work.
Well, I know. Poor Nicole. Poor Nicole. We need to pay Nicole. So if anybody knows of any investors or grants that I could get to pay Nicole, send them my way. I'll pay Nicole before I pay myself. Don't tell my wife that. It's true, though.
Oh, I know it's true.
Don't forget, you can always follow me on Patreon. I have various tiers there that you can pick from, and you're going to get bonus content like these video episodes dropped a day early. Don't forget to go to patreon.com/thequeerfamilypodcast to join. Make sure that you're following me on all of the socials. I'm the Queer Family Podcast on Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, and YouTube. And YouTube is where you're going to get the full video episodes, plus some cute shorts and stuff like that. Follow, do the stuff, go to tpublic.com/thequeerfamilypodcast and get your merchandise. And let's have Helen and Beulah roll this dang tape. And please do us the honors.
Okay. Roll it, Helen. Roll it, Beulah. I'm out.
Thank you.
Queer Family Podcast. Love is love.
Hi, Lamalani and Laracarina.
Hi, Jamie.
Oh my God. I just want to say your name. Your name's like a million times. It's so fun to say. Lamalani and Laracarina are coming over. Lamalani and Laracarina are here to tell their story of queer family making. Okay, let's dive right in, all right? You know how it goes because you're listeners. You have your 30-second elevator pitch. So I'm going to put up a little timer, and I'll never cut you off because I don't play like that. But it makes it more fun to put the timer up. Okay, here we go. Tell us who you are and why you're here. On your marks, get set, go.
Hi, I am Laracarina, and this is Lamalani. We've been together for 7 years. We got together being 100% against having children, and then everything changed when Lamalani came home one day and changed her mind. So we struggled through a tumor removal surgery that was canceled because of COVID lockdown, infertility, IVF. We got stranded in the 2021 ice storm in Texas while I was pregnant, grad school, and a pregnancy that lasted forever. So having a toddler has actually been the easy part. Oh, it went over. I did okay. It was like 32 seconds.
You did a great job, but I know you're not done. That's not even like I don't even think we got through the whole iceberg.
Not
there
at all.
Just like a lot more of your story. Oh my God. All right. Well, let's start at the beginning. You've been together 7 years. How'd you meet?
Mm-hmm.
How did you swipe right? Was it one of them things? I don't even know how you say it. Swipe
We
left.
met on the internet.
Seems like everybody else now.
But not swiping. No,
Yeah.
we met on like the old people internet. We met on OkCupid.
So you fell in love, got married, right?
Well, and we were like never having kids, right? Like I would literally never go on a second date with somebody if they said they wanted kids. I'd be like, you're great. You sound really nice. I'm not the girl for you because I'm never having children because children are gross and sticky and I don't know why, right? Like I like kids. I taught kindergarten for a little while. Like kids are fine. I just never wanted them. And Lamalani was like, she was like a sex educator for 20 years. She'd never met a child. And so we were on the same page. Everything was fine.
Uh-huh.
And then one day, Lamalani came home and we were sitting in the driveway and she was acting weird. And I looked at her and I was like, what is going on? Something's going on. What is going on? And she looks at me and she goes, I want a baby. Oh,
Just like out of the blue.
okay. Her brother was expecting the arrival of his child. I don't know how you say that. His wife was
he
pregnant.
was.
But still, like we'd never been like, oh, I think I want that for myself. Nothing. Like we'd never talked about it. We knew we were never having children. It wasn't a part of our life. We weren't set up for kids. We traveled all the time. Like it just wasn't, we weren't planning to do that. And then bam, like you just wanted kids.
Yeah, and a couple things that had happened for me. And, as mentioned, I was a sex educator. So my whole life was structured to be 18 and over. And I was the kind of person who was like, I don't relate to kids. Well, the truth is that I never gave myself a chance
Yeah.
to relate to a kid.
Yeah.
In my grad school application, I built my additional skills as non-traditional education, which was queer sex education. My program is paid for by a sponsor. So I was placed with a sponsor that was K through 12 education. I was like, oh crap, what do I do? So that was the first time
Right.
I'd really engaged with kids. And I was like, oh my gosh, like this is amazing. And then at the same time, my brother was going to have his first child. And then I had me thinking about family. And all
Well,
this
and you
stuff.
guys were already in your 40s. So like
Yes.
by then the family had kind of like your family of origin had kind of stopped expecting any of you guys were going to have
Mhm.
kids because nobody had kids.
Mm.
And then in your 40s, your brother's wife got pregnant. Lamalani just had this look on her face. I call it her feelings face. Whenever she's like having a genuine emotion, her face does this thing and I'm powerless against the face. Like she could literally ask me for anything and I would give it to her. I mean, obviously we have a child, right? So she had this look on her face and I was like, okay,
right.
well,
I mean, it worked.
Yeah.
oh wow. Like she could literally get me to do anything. And I said,
That's
well, if
amazing.
you have the eggs, I'll make you the baby. Cause like I had no,
Wow.
like I wasn't interested in genetics, right? Like I wasn't really interested in that. But I also knew that if I was going to get myself right with having a child, I had to really be on board with it. I wasn't just going to do it because you wanted it. Because that didn't feel good to me. Like I have to be really okay with this. We were planning to get married anyway. We got married a couple months later. Then we met with the reproductive endocrinologist in January of 2020. So right before everything shut down. She checked us all out. Lamalani was 42 at the time and I was 35. So we were already in that upper range of not prime baby making years or not prime. Like,
Geriatric. Got some
that
dusty
term
eggs.
is terrible. Yeah.
yeah, well, and like egg quality, not prime egg
It's
quality
terrible.
years.
Yeah. I prefer just to call them dusty.
Yeah.
Dusty's good. I like
Yeah,
that.
we had like raisins, like raisin ovaries.
Oh God.
It was, they were.
So you just did like a complete turnaround. You're like, okay, all right, let's do this and I'll carry it.
Yes. I mean, the face, you have to see the feelings face. If you saw the feelings face, you would understand. It's impossible to say no. But
I need
then
to
I
see
was
this
like,
face. I need to learn how to do
Has
this
to be
face.
genuine.
it's really, it has to be genuine.
Yeah.
Like it was about 7 months before we actually started trying. And when I first said, if you have the eggs, I'll make you the baby, I was like 80% hoping she didn't have the eggs.
Chances were certainly in your favor.
I was like, I'd agreed to do a thing, but I was like, it would be cool if it didn't work out. That'd be okay.
Right. So you weren't fully there.
Oh God, no, not in the car that day. No, I was
Right.
under duress of the face. But over the next like 8 months, I got my shit together.
Mhm.
And then I got,
Okay.
I got excited. And then I got invested.
Okay.
And then it turned out that I had a tumor that was the size of a small pineapple,
Oh, shit.
crushing my uterus and my bladder. And so
Oh my
I was going to
God.
have that removed. Yeah, it was like a 5-inch tumor. And they couldn't see it. Like they couldn't visualize it because my uterus and my bladder were both so crumpled because this tumor was taking up all the space.
Oh my God.
Yeah. And so we scheduled that surgery, and it was scheduled for March 21st, 2020. And I got a call on March 20th, and they said, we're closing everything down. Your surgery is indefinitely canceled. Except I was like, but I have this tumor in my body and you have to get it out. What do you mean just it's canceled?
They're like, it's okay. It's just a uterus, you know. You're a body with a uterus. You can take it.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was really intense.
Don't worry. We don't pay that much attention to those.
Right. Like, who cares? Right. You have other organs. Like, it's not even one of the important ones.
I know.
And I was like, but it's a tumor.
It was a freaking tumor.
It was a tumor,
in
and
the
it was
uterus.
like the size of a pineapple.
So they shut it all down, and then what?
And then we just like waited. So the surgeon ended up being someone we knew, which we didn't know when we walked into his office. He ended up being the other gay guy at our synagogue, and the other couple of color at our synagogue. And it was just like the guy from Shul. We were like, okay.
Nice. You're like, hey.
Yep. Very nice.
What's the Jewish word for fate? Fate? What is it?
Bashert.
Bashert. It was Bashert.
Yeah, it really was. Because of that connection, he made sure that my surgery was the first one rescheduled. And so I was able to have the surgery in June. Oh, and we didn't know anyone who had ever, we didn't know any queer people who had kids except for my parents. But that was the 80s, and shit was weird in the 80s.
It's a totally other ballgame.
Oh, it was, and it's a great story. And but it was.
Can you give a nutshell of your parents' story?
So good.
So I was conceived like the OG way, but my stepdad, my stepdad is trans, and when he had my stepbrother, he just went to his gynecologist and was like, I want to have a kid. And his gynecologist was like, cool, I'll make that happen for you. And he had a network of gay men who would donate sperm on the DL. And do kids still say that? Do they still say the DL?
On the DL, they do right here, right now. Yeah.
They do, right? He just got random sperm and had my stepbrother that way. So it's a little more formal now.
We've interviewed people whose parents did the same exact thing. Yeah. That was how you did it in the 80s. It was on the DL.
Exactly. Crazy. And so, it's weird now because with 23andMe and companies like that, people are being connected with people who really did expect anonymity. They really had an expectation of anonymity that we just don't have anymore. And so that's brought up a lot of weird ethical questions for my brother about whether he feels comfortable reaching out to these people or not. And for the most part, he's decided, no, he doesn't feel comfortable doing that because that person expected to be anonymous. So it was very different. It was not helpful to us at all.
Yeah, right. Yeah. So that's why your podcast
Well, no,
is
that's
such
not
a great
going to
resource.
that's not going to help you nowadays.
Yeah.
Right.
And here comes me.
You.
Exactly. Yeah. No, I started
helped you make a baby.
You did. Oh, you did. You helped us find our attorney, everything.
Yeah. I mean, as you probably already know, everything on the internet, most of the resources are very heteronormative. Yeah. And don't apply to our situation.
And our fertility clinic was also very heteronormative, and they made us do things that didn't feel good. Our preconception counseling was excruciating. They made us spend $300 to see a therapist who was like, but what are you going to tell your family? And I was like, first of all, everyone we're related to is pretty clear on how babies were made. So they're pretty clear on the fact that we're missing a little something, something in the baby creation department, And she was like, but what, are you going to tell them that it was donated sperm? And I was like, where are they going to think the sperm came from?
I mean, Your mom may have thought it was the 80s again, that she wouldn't care. But it was still donated.
Pluck it out of the sky.
Yeah.
She's like, are they going to understand? And I was like, we're gay. Like, we're literally gay.
It was one of the most ridiculous conversations I've ever had.
And like Lamalani's dad was adopted. So we just
sorry.
have a lot of experience with this, but this woman just like couldn't
And same as
handle it.
what will you tell your future child? I'm like,
Again,
no, really?
Like,
I'm a biologist.
Trust us. We've thought about this. Don't worry.
yeah, like we're on
We
it.
got this.
It's
We got.
fine.
You know
Whatever.
what? We should teach a class to you. Let's
right.
get that started.
There you
Let's
go.
get that going. Right?
Absolutely.
Like you're a sex educator. Okay, here we go. Sit down.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
Oh
Such a
my
waste of
God.
money.
Okay. So
Well, and I was on meds, so I was like irate, right? I was like hormonally upset about this. Lamalani was like
Mhm.
a normal person. I was like, I can't communicate with these people because I'm angry.
Listen, we're all entitled to the way we feel.
Yeah. And that was one of the examples. Like, if paperwork was all very heteronormative, there was one point where I had to sign a contract at this point where you were thinking I'd be using my eggs, where I would basically be writing off Laracarina's role as a surrogate.
And
like,
yeah,
we're not
they
gonna
wanted to
sign
list
this.
me as a gestational carrier. And I was like, I'm not signing those papers.
Because
they
you're
had
not.
nothing.
And I don't
Yeah.
know what kind of legal bearing they'd have, assuming that we got any embryos. You know,
Mhm,
like, I
mhm.
don't know. I'm not going to sign a paper that says
Right.
I'm just a gestational carrier.
Because there's a lot of like legal ownership of, whether it's the donor sperm or the egg, there's a lot of legal ownership of whatever that item is.
Mhm.
And we really didn't want to sign a piece of paperwork that would have her be a stranger.
And there
essentially.
you had done an episode right around that time. That was actually how I found your podcast, was because of the couple
Mhm.
in, I think, Canada, who had encountered paperwork issues through their clinic. And they actually worked with the clinic to rewrite all of their paperwork.
Oh yeah.
And that was the
Amanda
episode.
and Gab. Yeah.
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 And that was the episode that brought me to your podcast. And it was
That's a good
so
one. It's
helpful.
called Fight the Power. Everybody should go listen to
Mhm.
that. Yeah.
For sure.
They really worked hard to change that damn system.
They
Like,
did.
They didn't fuck around.
I didn't
I'm
do that.
so impressed.
They
Yeah.
did a
And
great job.
I wish I was strong enough to do that. No, but it takes a certain amount of like toughness, to confront these clinics and
Mhm.
say, listen, and to not get, it takes a lot of courage and it takes a lot of patience to not get angry and decide, okay, we're going to change it. We're not going to get mad here.
Right.
We're gonna
Right.
work
Oh,
with them.
absolutely.
I don't know how they did it.
It was amazing. And that was such a great episode. Everybody go listen to that episode because it was so good.
So what happened?
Well,
So we got the bill.
I like the plug though. Thank you.
yeah.
It was a good episode. Go listen to it. So we got the bill. So Lamalani was 42 and
Dusty.
we
I
got
was
we got the
dusty.
bill for the medication for Lamalani's cycle, and we both freaked out.
And
It
this
was
is
so much
with
money.
a 50%
Yeah.
discount.
With a 50% discount, it was still going to be like $14,000 for the meds.
Oh my
and
God.
so we
Oh my God.
panicked, and it's just because.
Wait a second. Did you have insurance? Did you have
It didn't
insurance?
cover
at this
it.
point?
Yeah, our insurance
but
did not cover
zero.
anything.
Zero fertility
Did it
coverage.
cover anything?
No,
Nothing.
No. So we took a
That's
Jewish
another
free
problem.
loan.
Yes, it is.
Yes. So we took a Jewish free loan through the Jewish Federation of Los Angeles.
Like Nikki Levy.
Yeah.
Oh my God. We talked to another person who got a Jewish free loan for
Yes.
fertility. I think she was the
Mhm.
first gay woman to get the loan.
That's amazing. Yeah, it was.
And you
it
must
was
have been
so easy.
The second.
Second.
It was
Yeah,
so
it was great.
well because
Oh.
each city, each Jewish federation has their own free loan. So it might
Mhm.
have been that just the federation that she went through. So we got the Jewish free loan, and then we got the bill, and then we panicked, and then we immediately decided to try my eggs instead.
Whoa.
Because
Big
I'm
change.
7 years younger, we thought it was going to be better.
Yeah, the chances are better than mine.
Right.
So we're like, if we're going to do it, we're going to
Right.
try to be as successful as possible.
And it's less expensive that way because you don't have to do reciprocal IVF.
So
Medications.
IVF costs what it costs. At our clinic, it didn't matter what body the eggs went into. It was the
Mm.
same price. And because our doctor was super thorough, instead of just having us start IUIs, she wanted to do all of the tests beforehand, which I'm really grateful for because my fallopian tubes were 100% occluded. So
Oh, jeez.
I never would have gotten pregnant doing IUIs, and we would have wasted a lot
Yeah.
of money. So
Yeah.
we were very lucky that way. And again, all of this happened during COVID lockdown, which meant I was alone for everything. Lamalani couldn't come with me at all.
Yeah, I can imagine. So when you switched egg
donors,
had you already gotten your sperm? Had you picked out your sperm? Like, where does the sperm come in?
I don't remember. Had we already gotten the sperm?
We had been, so I had been shopping a lot because I'm a student, and that was a great distraction.
I couldn't have cared less.
Yeah. So our fertility clinic would only go through California Cryobank because it's well vetted and it has good,
And California standards, I guess, are stricter than other states, and so they preferred California Cryobank. So we went with California Cryo.
Yeah. So I would just spend a lot of time online shopping, and it's so weird. It's definitely not the 80s. So I just go through these profiles. Like I was looking, like it was almost like I was online dating, but not interested in the person.
And purely for genetics.
Yeah. That's why it turns into the search for Superman. Like you can get down a rabbit hole.
And what was weird was that Lamalani would call me from the other room and she'd be like, look at these guys. And I'm like, I don't care. And she'd be like, look at these guys. Which one do you like? And I'm like, I literally don't care. All I wanted was that Lamalani's Chinese. I wanted a Chinese donor.
That was it.
And that was weird. There were people in our life who were like, oh, you're getting a Chinese donor? Why?
I'm like, hi. Do you not see me as Chinese?
Almost like they expected us to want to quote upgrade to a white baby. It was weird. It was really weird.
Oh,
it was surprising.
God,
and I don't know if it's been said before, but the majority of donors are white. So once you filter for an Asian, and it's not even just Chinese, it's just grouped as Asian.
All you can do is filter by Asian, and then from there you have to look at every donor and filter out Korean donors and Japanese donors and Cambodian donors. And
so it really is just a handful at that point that you're looking at.
When you filter it to Asian, what does it drop to?
It dropped to 16, something like that. There were 16 Asian donors, and then there were
a huge drop.
Yeah, it was certainly under 100, and it was probably in the
no. It was maybe there was
20
Asian donors at the time. 12 of those were Chinese, and then I needed a CMV negative donor for reasons that surpass understanding. But anyway,
at that point, we literally had 10 people to choose from.
No, it was less.
Or 5 or something.
It was 5.
Right.
It was crazy. And
there were 5, and Lamalani became unreasonably obsessed with height.
I think that's because I'm masculine identified.
She really wanted a tall
height thing.
And I was like, why? And she's like, we need someone who can get things off tall shelves for us. And I was like, they make stools. What?
Listen, crazy things start to matter. And I don't think the height thing is crazy, but the things that we hone in on, it's funny. These donor stories are so funny. So
and we're not related to anybody over 5'10". So I don't know why you're tripping over 6'2".
No, it's nice because we didn't have a lot. Laracarina didn't care. I was just had a couple things where I'm like, wouldn't it be nice if someone was tall?
We did not. We did not go with an extremely tall donor.
No, we did not.
We went with a donor who's 5'10".
Yeah, and that's because
wait, how tall?
5'10". Just my dad and your dad and your brother and every man we know.
Yeah, but it was nice because we didn't have disagreements. We generally had the same idea. And there's a few people that have adult pictures, and Laracarina liked this one person who had a what I call very typical Chinese picture of.
No, you called it a Chinese grandma picture.
Yes.
She's like, we can't use his sperm. And I said, why not? She goes, he looks like my grandma.
Because he's just taking a picture in front of flowers. My grandma does that all the time. And I'm like, it just reminded me of my grandma.
I was like, but he's an artist and his parents are doctors. Look at that. And she was like, he looks like my grandma.
Not happening. Yeah. It's so funny, the things, right?
Yeah.
It really is the funny things that we say someone's a no for.
It's such a bizarre experience.
It really is buying sperm. So you find your dude.
Yep.
You agree.
Yes.
Did you buy multiple? Did you buy up? Did you listen to the podcast? And
we bought one.
Oh yeah.
And then we bought one, and then you came to me and you were like, he's going on.
He's selling
They're
out
going out of
fast.
stock. We need to buy one more. And I was like, I agreed to do this one time. And she's like, no, just in case. And I was like, okay.
You had a backup plan for everything.
You got
Wow.
nervous that he was selling out.
Yeah.
I did. So we
I
still have
think
a
I was
vial.
already pregnant at that point too.
Yeah.
Because we couldn't really afford to do it more than once. So we got one embryo from my retrieval.
Oh shit, that's not a lot.
Yeah, I didn't grow
That's,
well.
I think, probably why I was going to get a backup.
I started with 5 eggs, and at the end of the 6 days, we had 2 embryos. One of them was chromosomally abnormal. One of them was good. And that ended up being our child.
Wow, and it worked.
Yes.
Thank
Yeah.
goodness. Yeah.
Wait, Lamalani, you were going to say something.
Oh, yeah. I was just going to talk about how our family is mostly vulva havers. And so we're not used to penises. So we were like, before we were like, oh, if we had
Right.
a choice, what would we pick? Well,
We would
obviously,
pick
girl.
a girl, because like we don't know anything about
Right.
dudes, you know.
Well, and then
Yeah,
we had another
right.
conversation as being Jewish. We didn't want to have to make the choice about a bris.
Well, yeah, I knew that I was going to need
right,
to
yeah.
get myself right with it. And so we
Mm.
decided to find out what the sex of the embryo was. It ended up being male. And we both went, oh. Okay.
I know that feeling. Not with the embryo, but
Right.
yeah.
Yeah. It was
Right.
because you have a son
It's-
too. It was
yeah.
it ended up being perfect. I'm so glad that that's what happened. But at the time we were like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
All right. And we were like
I
both
know,
a little
it's-
disappointed and pretending that we weren't.
And now I can't imagine our life without him.
So it's such a weird thing. And it's not everyone doesn't go through this, but it is for some folks like me included. It can be really hard to wrap your head around the fact that, okay, I'm having a boy.
Right. Well, I didn't know anything about guys, really. Like, I don't.
Our pediatrician must think we're so weird. We have all these penis questions every time we go see them. So anyway,
Interesting. Okay.
but we talked to the rabbi.
Well, wait. So
Oh.
you did a retrieval.
Oh, yeah. So I did a
then we
retrieval
were
with
like,
backup
backup
plan.
plan, 1 embryo. That's not good odds. And Lamalani, I think you wanted, like, you had a connection to.
I did have a genetic
This.
connection. I think
Right.
because I like, I'm a biologist, so I like genetics.
Right. In a way that I
You
didn't.
wanted a genetic tie. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. At this point, my parents got really excited. So they
helped
loaned
us
us the money
pay
to
for
pay
it.
for a second retrieval.
Oh,
And it was going
nice.
really well.
Oh my God. She got twice the number of eggs I got. She had 5 times the number of embryos that I got, or 3 times the number of embryos I got.
Whoa.
And remember, I was very early pregnant at this point.
2 of us on hormones.
2 of
That's
us on
fun
times. It was super intense.
And you were already pregnant. Wait, you were pregnant.
I was very newly pregnant, but Lamalani wasn't allowed to come with me. She'd never heard the heartbeat. She'd never been in the room. She'd never seen the ultrasound, nothing. All of her embryos were chromosomally abnormal. None of them were usable. And one of the
Oh,
things I really
wow.
regret is that I was in like new pregnancy, I'm sick all the time, it's COVID, I'm alone, I'm freaking out place. And I wasn't really able to understand the feeling of loss that you felt. And I really regret not being as supportive as I could have been when you were going through that. And I just didn't understand. I wasn't in a place to be able to understand what that felt like for you.
And it was also surprising to me as someone who is masculine presenting and had never wanted kids, and I was thinking of this more of a backup plan. And so it was surprising to me that I'd felt such grief and loss. And I was shocked, actually.
And that lingered.
Mhm.
Like those feelings lingered for a long time.
Yeah. So we didn't have a backup plan.
And that was, I think also we didn't have anyone to share it with.
Yes. Yeah. Because at this point we were still in Ohio
And
and it
we
was
were
all
alone.
very, very lonely.
I just want to take a second here because all y'all at home who are listening did not just see the amazing coupling beauty that just happened between these. I feel like I just watched a beautiful therapy session. I would cry. And then they put their heads on each other and they looked each other in the eye, and it was like such a special, sweet moment. I felt like maybe I should give them a second. Like that was so beautiful and so well done. I love that you just brought that up because that is something that is really unique to our families.
Mm-hmm.
You're pregnant right now, Laracarina, and Lamalani, your wife is pregnant and you're experiencing this like terrible, terrible loss.
Yeah.
But your wife is still pregnant.
Yeah. It's
And you know
weird
you're
mix
going to
of-
have a baby that doesn't have a genetic tie to you. That is something that really matters to you. And so how do you work through that?
And doesn't matter to me, which is the fucked up part, because the
Right.
only reason I'm genetically related to this child is because I was younger. That's the only reason. I did not care at all about having a genetic tie to my
Right.
child. And you did, and you couldn't have that.
Yeah.
Wow. So how did you move through? Like, what'd you do? How'd you make it out?
I think it was really the successful carrying, and like every time everything was positive, you know, again, keep in mind that I was in the car. So I was feeling a step removed from all of these checkups and things. But like as things were progressing and it was successful and healthy, then the loss and the grief was replaced by joy. And it doesn't say that I necessarily dealt with it. That took a couple times later where I had to really think and identify that, you know, this is also my very Chinese upbringing, is I have to really think about my feelings. And so I had to like sit and think, it's like, oh, I'm grieving. Okay. It's like a whole mix of things. Like, why am I feeling sad? Okay, this is why.
Or even, what is that feeling? Oh, it's sadness.
Yeah. Yeah. You know, especially when there's so much going on besides like the stress.
And admittedly, our cultural backgrounds are so different. You know, my family, we're Middle Eastern and Latino, right? We're very, and you know, our culture is very connected to our feelings, and we talk about our feelings and we experience our feelings, and it's loud and it's a whole thing. And your family's Chinese and
Stuff it in
Canadian.
a box and put it away.
Yeah. And so it has taken a long time for me to understand that if you don't express your feelings, it doesn't mean that you're not having them. It means that you maybe don't know how to identify them.
Yeah.
And so I think I wasn't really as aware as I wish I had been to what you were going through at the time.
Yeah.
And it comes up every
You are
now and
just
again.
the sweetest. Yeah. Well, look at you. Yeah, I mean, you're talking it out right in front of me. I mean, it's just
Sorry.
freaking
Is that
beautiful. No. Oh my God. It's just making me, it's just like validating for me that queer people are doing it right.
I mean, you know, I take every opportunity that I can to say that, because I really do, you know, I really do regret that. You know, I regret how alone you were in those feelings. And, you know, I try to just own that.
Thank you.
As often as possible.
No, it's all good. But yeah, it's
so that was weird.
Yeah, it was just so many emotions, like at a time when people were having a lot of emotions anyway. It was just like, it's a lot.
Right.
It's a lot.
Yeah. And then
It's a lot.
I got laid off from my job, and I was pregnant, and I was over Ohio, and we were standing in our kitchen, and I looked at Lamalani and I said, "You're ABD," meaning all but dissertation. I'm going home to California, and you can come with me if you want to.
I said, hell
I am not having this baby in Ohio.
Yeah. And there's actually a lot of reasons.
Okay.
We thought about this critically too, is like, you know, if he wanted to change his gender marker in the future,
It's easier to do in California than it is to do in Ohio. And so like there were, and also parenting.
At least right now it is.
Right now,
Like-
correct. Correct. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
You know, and like birth
Scary
certificates
times.
are just different in California in terms of like you can be listed as a parent instead of a mother or a father. And that wasn't the case in Ohio. Our doctor was like, oh, well, yeah, a lot of my patients drive 2.5 hours to Pittsburgh and have their kids in Pennsylvania. And I was like, that's a hard fucking pass.
Yeah. I don't personally find Pennsylvania to be much. Anyway.
Also, but also it's 2.5 hours.
To
Like
have
I'm
their
going to drive 2.5 hours in labor to Pennsylvania. Like I'm not doing that.
Literally
Yeah,
to
no
have a more
thanks.
forgiving birth certificate.
Yeah,
Like
no.
it's there's some things that need to be
Right.
addressed. But anyway.
So we had
Oh
a good
God,
idea.
it's so fucked up.
Yeah,
It's-
it is.
It was, yeah. Like the idea of having that baby in Ohio was starting to make me panic. Like I didn't feel good about that.
Yeah.
And so we
Oh, that's
rented.
mentioned, like we don't know how we'll be treated in the healthcare
That's true.
that's facility as far as queer parents. Like
Mm-hmm.
get it. So we're
Yeah.
not going to be the ones to fight that fight.
No, like
Right.
there are people who are fighting that fight and I support them and I think they're great, but not being from there, I didn't feel like it was really My fight, I wanted to come back to California. So we rented a motorhome. We got our army of cats and we put them in the motorhome.
As you do.
As you do.
You know,
Because
So
the
lesbian.
lesbians. I know, right?
So queer.
I know. Like, I feel like that might
As
be the
you do.
gayest thing about us. It's our army of cats.
In the motorhome too. I mean, it all tracks.
It was COVID.
It was COVID.
Like, I didn't want to get sick. We didn't want to be on an airplane.
Yeah.
I was pregnant. We had no backup plan. Like,
I was like super excited about this
Right.
prospect. However, like
she did a lot of research. There was a spreadsheet. We made it home. My mom had vegan dumpling soup waiting for me because it was the only thing I wanted to eat.
There you
And
go. There you go.
then, oh man, I couldn't find an OB. Nobody was taking new patients. And so I ended up with a
COVID.
midwife.
Yeah.
And I went well past the legal limit. I was pregnant for 43 weeks.
Whoa.
Yeah. I was really pregnant for as long as you're allowed to be pregnant. I never went into labor. My
Right.
water broke. I still never went into labor. And then she recommended that we go to this hospital that was really far away because they had a nice midwifery team.
Yeah, we were planning on doing a home birth. And so this particular hospital an hour away from where we live is kind of like a birthing experience as close as we could get in a
Sort
hospital
of.
setting.
And also, you
Mhm.
know, like we didn't have access to resources because it was COVID.
Yeah.
So, you know,
Right.
no doctors were accepting new patients
Mhm.
unless you had a relationship with them. And I had been gone, so I didn't have a relationship with anybody.
I mean, but you're pregnant.
Yeah.
Right.
This baby's gonna come.
It
We're
was,
gonna need some help.
it was not ideal. Knowing what I know now, I mean, I made the decisions I could, but
Mhm.
the upcoming pregnancy that we'll tell you about will be very different.
That was some foreshadowing right there, but we'll get into that.
Spoiler alert, I'm not the mom. I am the mom, but I'm not the mom. There is no mom.
Right.
But it's not my baby.
There's a whole nother thing we have to talk about here.
Yes.
There's a whole nother thing.
Yes.
But let's finish this. So you went to a home birthing place.
Mhm.
But I wasn't allowed to do it because I didn't go into labor. So I ended up going to a hospital and being induced. And I pushed for about 12 hours. I was in the final stage of labor and my baby was very long. He was 22 inches long and he was crushing my sciatic nerve and it paralyzed me. And I couldn't move and he was stuck. I thought I was experiencing nerve death. I'd never experienced what sciatic nerve pain felt like before. So I thought that I was experiencing nerve death in my legs. And I was like, oh, I got to get my legs amputated because I was in labor and like your brain does weird shit when you're in labor.
Yeah. And you had been pushing for 12 freaking hours.
Right. And I was
So-
like, they're never going to amputate my legs. I was like, that's okay. I can do it myself. I just have to get us. Like, it was not good.
your brain was not in the right place.
No.
Her mom pulled the doctor aside.
Well,
Like,
no.
she really doesn't want her legs amputated.
Because I was like, can you just amputate my legs? And my mom was like, I don't think she really means that. And the doctor was like, yeah, no fucking kidding. And I finally ended up having to have a C-section. But by the time we got to the point of having the C-section, I was like, get the baby out of me. Like, I don't care if this baby comes out my nostril, just get it out. Get it out. I'm done. He ended up being born. He wasn't particularly heavy. He was 8 pounds, but he was very, very long.
Wow. So much for the tall donor. Well, there you go. You
I
got
know,
your tall
right?
kid.
Yeah, I know. Everyone's like, he's going to be so tall.
Wow. Okay. So he ended up being born
On my grandmother's
on
birthday,
your grandma's birthday. So it
Yeah.
was
which was
was
amazing.
shared.
Yeah, he was so
There you
late, he
go.
changed the expected horoscope sign, astrological sign.
Oh, he did. He was supposed to be a Leo. He became
he's
a
a
Virgo,
Virgo.
like Lamalani. So my life is, we have competing
Oh.
organizational structures.
But what's meant to be
Yeah.
was meant to be.
Yep.
Yeah,
Right?
and he's amazing. He's just like the
Mhm.
greatest little person.
He really is.
Yeah, he was just amazing. And, you know, we reached out to a rabbi before he was born because, you know, like,
The whole
we don't
birth
know,
thing.
like
Yeah.
we had to, we're going to have a Brit Milah. I didn't know anything about it. Lamalani didn't know anything about it. And I kind of thought it was weird. Like, I don't know. It seemed like not having a lot of experience with penises. It seemed like a weird thing to do to cut off a piece of the anatomy unless you have like a good reason for it. And so I just like called up this rabbi
Mhm.
and I was like, look, this feels weird. And he was like, it does feel weird, doesn't it? It feels weird because it is weird. It's also basically the most Jewish thing you can do. And I was like, yeah, that's fair. That's fair. So we ended up doing it. It was fine. I was highly traumatized. No one else gave a shit. I was traumatized.
Yeah, we ended up doing it because culture and tradition is very important to us. Like we try to put a very queer and modern spin on it, but fundamentally we do want to maintain our cultural traditions.
Yeah. And so it was done in my parents' dining room on my mom's lap
because COVID.
Because COVID.
Yeah.
But it's always done on the
lap. Oh no, well, yeah. But I mean in the house.
Grandparent. But
no big party.
No big party, but it was very sweet and weird. And I panicked and then was super traumatized for like a couple weeks later until it healed.
Yeah. What I love is that throughout the entire pregnancy up until he was actually born, Laracarina didn't feel a connection.
Oh, I had no connection to him really.
Until
I was very much me, and this is my body, and weird shit is happening inside my body, but I didn't feel like an us at all. And the second he was in my arms, I bonded to him immediately. But I did not have that like earth. I hated being pregnant too.
But it's just interesting because you didn't want kids in the beginning, then came around, and now you're carrying, and it's your egg. And you're still not feeling a connection. Like, were you worried?
Really. Yeah. I was very worried. I was worried about postpartum depression. I was worried that I wasn't going to bond. I was very worried. And I think because my expectations were so low, which is kind of my MO for life. I'm like, keep those expectations low.
You won't be disappointed.
And I won't be disappointed. But no, I was expecting to have some postpartum depression, and I was expecting to have difficulty bonding, and neither of those things happened. But I also think it's because I didn't have high expectations for my pregnancy experience, and I wasn't expecting it to be great. And so I did have a couple of moments afterwards of being like, what the fuck? Like, I'm never going to get to, like be a person again. Like now I'm somebody's mother. I don't belong to me anymore. And I still have moments like that. Like I just want to sleep in on a Saturday.
We all do.
Like I just really want to sleep in on a Saturday.
Hopefully, Jamie, please tell us that'll change. Yeah. Can we sleep in any day?
It'll happen.
Okay, good.
It'll eventually happen.
I mean, it's amazing.
It's great.
I'm loving having a toddler.
Yeah, he's so great.
He's gotten so fun.
Oh, good.
He's talking and he does weird shit. Yeah. It's funny.
It's a sense of humor. Like he's just so freaking cute.
Yeah, he's a cool kid. I literally can't imagine like doing it again, like having an infant again, giving birth. I literally think the most sadistic thing in the world is that you spend the last month of pregnancy unable to sleep because you're uncomfortable as hell and you have heartburn like out your ears. And then you have a baby and you're expected to make good choices. Like I haven't slept in a month. Like I can't make good choices. And now you're just going to like hand me this kid and send me home. Like, what is that?
Okay. So you had this, so you ended up with this beautiful bond, even though it's really hard, but he's super awesome. And so where are you at now? What's going on?
So I just started medication to do a transfer. I am going to be a gestational carrier for a gay couple in our lives, our dear friends.
What?
Yeah. And, one of the things that kept coming up for us was just how fucking expensive and inaccessible it is for queer people to have kids. And we were so lucky that we had a viable uterus, potentially 2 viable uteruses if we needed them, because that is so expensive. And so early on in the pregnancy, I told Lamalani that if it worked, I wanted to consider being a gestational carrier for our friends, like if everything went okay, even though I hated pregnancy. And then when I was holding our baby Rafa in my arms, I just remember I cried a lot, like you cry a lot after you have a baby. They were like, but for me, they were like happy. This is amazing tears. And I just remember looking at Lamalani and saying like, I want them to be able to experience this. I want them to have their baby. And I knew that there was no way they were going to be able to like pay $160 for a surrogate. Like, that wasn't going to, that's what I mean. $160,000 for a surrogate. Like it just was $160. Like I knew they were never going to be able to afford that. Who can afford that? Especially not if you're trying to, live in LA.
And I think like the other thing that I'll say is like, Laracarina told you the the story of the actual birth, but it was really, really traumatic. And it was really traumatic for her. Like she's mentioned that, but I think he kind of downplayed it. And it was
The birth.
the birthing and the way the doctors treated her pain. You know, I'm sure a lot of people say things like, I want to die and all these things during labor.
I did say that.
And I know my wife, and she has a crazy high pain tolerance. So I knew that this pain it was different.
The sciatic nerve pain.
Yeah, it was very different. And it was very, very, very intense and real.
Yeah.
And
part of it is like, they didn't know what I was talking about. I didn't know how to explain what I was feeling because I didn't know what was happening.
so there's a lot of trauma that was in there in many layers. And, you know, so I was scared of this happening again.
You were very nervous about me having another pregnancy.
Yeah. And so one thing that helped me is that Larkin said, I want to rewrite the story. I want to do it with more information. I want to
Like a real doctor. I want to have an actual OB this time.
And so it would be healing for her to rewrite this story.
Yeah.
So you want a do-over.
I do want a do-over, but I
a do-over.
don't want to have to raise an infant after I do it. So I'm like really excited about giving the baby to the dads and sleeping
Oh
it
my
off.
God, it's amazing. And Lamalani, you're good with it and on board.
Yeah. And I was just talking through my fears too, because like as a partner watching your person go through that experience, like I felt so freaking helpless. So of course I had these fears and just talking, you know, because again, we didn't have that support during COVID and while in Ohio. So it's going to be different because we do have support. We do have family here. We do have friends. A lot of the shutdown restrictions have passed. So it'll be different for me as well. And I think I just needed that reassurance that there will be support and we'll be taken care of.
Yeah. And a lot of what we went through had the lockdown, COVID lockdown really impacted our experience significantly. You know, it impacted all of the choices we made. It impacted where we lived. It impacted the support we had access to. It impacted the medical care that we had access to. It impacted and also just like the daily fear of getting sick and losing our one chance at having a baby. So once we kind of unpacked that, we decided that it was a fine thing to do. And yeah, well, like as soon as we sign the rest of the paperwork, which we just got in an email today, we'll go ahead and schedule a transfer. And then I get to do it all over again.
Okay. Well, I hope this time is a little easier and better.
I do too.
I hope we enjoy it a little bit more this time. Oh my God, that's amazing. What way to pay it forward.
Yeah, and like they're two just really wonderful people and we love them so much, you know, and they've been a part of our chosen family for a while. And I would literally never do this for anybody else.
Well, thank you two so much for sharing your beautiful story. It's amazing.
Thank you for having us.
I can't wait to hear, as I say all the time, I'm invested. And now I need to know how this goes.
You got
it. So keep us posted.
Absolutely.
Keep us posted. I want to know.
We would be happy
And
to
I'm
do
wishing
that.
you all the baby dust,
Thank
in
you.
the world. Surrogacy baby dust.
Yeah.
So
Thank you
all
so
right.
much.
Well, thank you so much.
Yeah.
It's been a pleasure. Thank you.
Absolutely.
Queer Family Podcast.
Well, folks, I really hope you enjoyed this episode of the Queer Family Podcast. If you do like what you hear or what you're watching on YouTube, please feel free to subscribe, rate, review us. All those things help us get this out to an even wider audience. Under the realm of visibility matters, it makes a huge difference. So please go do all those things and feel free to write a really nice review. I don't mind that ever. And also make sure you're following us on all the socials. We are on Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, and YouTube at the Queer Family Podcast. Make sure you get your Pride merch with the Queer Family Podcast merchandise at tpublic.com/the Queer Family Podcast, or you can also find that merchandise on our website, thequeerfamilypodcast.com. You can also find it in our Instagram link in bio if you're on Instagram more than anything. Do that, do all that stuff. And join me on Patreon. Patreon, you're going to get, you get the video episode dropped a day early, y'all, which is huge. And some other bonus stuff too. So head to patreon.com/the Queer Family Podcast. Find the tier you can afford and join. I would love to see you over there. Let's create a big community. Let's be visible, folks. I love you all so much. I'm so happy you tuned in. Please tune in to the next one. And if you feel like watching another Queer Family Podcast episode and you happen to be on YouTube, just click to the next one. You might as well just watch us all day. I'm going to say that every week at this point. Watch us all day. Watch Queer Family goodness all day long. Because who can get enough of that? No one. Come on. I love y'all. I'll see you next time. I'll be in your ears next time, however you are listening or watching. You know what I mean. I love y'all. Thank you so much. Mwah. I'll see you next time.
Love is love on the Queer Family Podcast. Love is love.